So hi guys, welcome to Blockspot's second podcast in of blockchain and business. And here we're going to switch things up a bit. We're changing the format of the podcast a bit. So what we're going to do is first we're going to talk about some business applications of blockchain. We're going to look at industries in specific of finance. We're looking at supply chain management in a little more detail, and we're looking at automobiles as well. And then we're going to move on to the news section. And the news section is basically something that gives you all of the updates and the new and happening trends in blockchain. And the theme of today's news will be to figure out how you can start earning using your daily activities through blockchain. And we'll keep changing the theme every day. And if you guys can go ahead and comment and let us know that what is it that you want more. Do you want more business applications, or do you want more news? So we're going to also shorten the podcast format a bit, and let's just dive straight in with blockchain business. And for those of you who've seen our first podcast, you guys would have seen the entire go through of blockchain. But if you haven't seen it and you want to understand a little bit of the fundamentals of it, then you can go and look at our podcast, and I'll link it down in the description. So let's just get started. So just to give you guys an idea of what the blockchain technology is in a base understanding, we're going to take the example of a city. So imagine the blockchain technology, or the network that we'd call it in the podcast, is basically a bustling city. And then you have the nodes, or the police. So the first thing that you need in the city is that to establish authority of law and order and make sure that all of the people living in the city are abiding by those rules and regulations. So you have the police, or the nodes, are doing these fact checking. Then you have the general users and citizens of the city who are going about doing their own transactions and basically doing business with each other. And finally, you have the developers of the city, who are basically the guys who construct the infrastructure. So they go ahead and build the buildings, they build the roads, and the developers in the blockchain network are the guys who are basically developing the code and making it better, making it scalable, making it more open source. So all of these things come into play. Now, the basic difference in this network is that the developers can't really take an action without the majority vote of the nodes and the users. So they can't go ahead and construct a building until the majority of the people in the city say that, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. So that's the principal difference between a real city and a blockchain city. And also, any user can go ahead and become a node. So that's open, and that's pretty much how it works with the current cities as well. So let's just dive straight in to blockchain applications, and we're going to start off with the financial sector, of course. So we did cover a little bit of this, but we'll go and look at the best and the biggest benefit of blockchain technology in the payment segment or the industry is the cross-border payments. So the current systems, how it works is basically you go to a bank, you give in your SWIFT codes, and you go ahead and give in the details of the person you're going to send. That includes their bank address, their bank IFSC code, and that's a lot of hassle, and it takes about 2 to 3 days to get the transaction completed. So this is something that is the legacy system, and it's slow and it's laborious, it's time consuming, and it's not, in a whole word, generally easy to go ahead and do this. The biggest disruption that came into this is TransferWise. So TransferWise is a company that uses peer-to-peer payments to basically manage this. So if I am trying to send money to, say for example, Singapore, then someone in Singapore will transfer the money to my desired person, and I will transfer the money to someone who has to send it from Singapore to India. So there is no transfer of funds in terms of border transfer, but there is a local transfer, and that's how pretty much it works. So it just works on a connecting system, and TransferWise is a platform for that. Now, this is again very opportunistic because you need to be able to find someone who's sending the currency to the particular person. You also need to make sure that their amounts are equivalent, or you have to look for one or more people. So this again is a disruption. It's faster, but again, like I said, that it doesn't make it very scalable, because again you have to rely on stable supply and stable demand. So this is something that big institutions have pretty much solved it out, because they get into contracts and negotiations with banks, and they implement solutions that makes it easier. But for general public and for small and medium-sized businesses, it makes it really difficult to make transfers and micro investments to cross-border countries. So what are the benefits of blockchain in the financial sector to particular individuals? So the first benefit is that you can get rid of all of the details that you have to do when you're making a SWIFT transfer, or you have to get rid of the fact that you have to find someone or an entity to help you transfer it. So that's the first benefit. So it gives you a public record of everyone's details. So all you need is just one single key to send it to the person. You don't have to have multiple keys. You don't need to have their address. You don't need to have their account number. You don't need to have the IFSC code, but rather just one single key that you send it to. So this obviously creates an increase in liquidity, because first of all, you know that it's going to be very easy, because it's almost as easy as clicking a button to choose who you're going to send it to. And again, there is no physical transfer of the assets on blockchain. So instead they use tokens, which gets transferred almost instantaneously. For example, the Bitcoin network can do it in about 2 to 4 hours, whereas banks take 2 to 3 days. And there are other solutions or protocols that actually make it a lot easier and faster as well. And in the addition to that, you also get a trustless system of security to individuals. So you don't really have to, again, rely on a third-party entity or an individual in a separate country who you probably have never met to ensure that your funds reach your directed target. You can do that using the blockchain technology, and since all of the records are public, you can ensure that your transaction has gone through to the other party. The benefits for the institutions are, of course, the benefits to the individuals are included to the benefits in the institutions, but there are for the benefits to big enterprises and small medium enterprises as well, is that first of all, you don't have to worry about middlemen in terms of banks or forex exchanges, but that entire technical aspect of it is handled by the blockchain network. Then you can also install smart contract driven escrows. You don't really have to go to escrow systems, but you can just build the smart contracts in-house and manage it and customize it to your requirement. And finally, you can also go for global crowdfunding, where companies can go ahead and say that, hey, look, we're launching a new product or we're launching a new service, and those of you who'd like to get early bird access to it can come and join in. So they don't have to get the backend ready in every single geographical location with a payment gateway or a bank. They can just go ahead and do that inherently inside or internally. Then let's move on to supply chain management. We did discuss a little bit of this, but we're going to dive into a little more detail. And for those of you guys who haven't seen the first podcast, we will be covering all of the aspects that we've touched upon in the first one as well. So the first benefit is that since there is a global record, you can obviously see the flow of the goods, and this is publicly available. So if you're going to order something from Amazon, you don't have to go onto the Amazon website to check where your order is. In fact, you can go onto a public record and you can see what the actual status of it is. At this point, when we go ahead and track a package, we trust on Amazon, or we trust on our, say for example, food delivery companies to tell us where the package is. But with this system, the data does not flow through them, but rather flows through the touch point to the individuals directly. This material tracking and the origin of the materials is something that will be very, very crucial for companies, because they no longer have to rely on their suppliers or the middlemen, but they can go ahead and start tracking all of this on their own. And since it's on the blockchain technology, it will be secure and decentralized to ensure that there is no malicious activity going on in these records. Then let's look at blockchain for container management in specific. First of all, you have the immutable records, so you can ensure that there is a chronological transfer of the particular container. You can use smart contract based space allocation. So what that means is you can go ahead and start creating a platform where people can buy the space automatically. So you yourself don't have to generate a lot of back-end solutions, or you don't really have to go ahead and track that, but the users can go ahead and just directly say that, hey, look, there's this much space left, it's going to cost me this much, and I'm just going to go ahead and sign up for it. And this gives a very, very scalable options to these companies, because they again don't really have to get the backend ready for different countries. They can just do that inherently, and this will help them expand a lot faster. Then you have food and safety, of course. So for most of you guys who don't know, Gordon Ramsay runs this show where he goes to fine dining kitchens and he figures out whether these guys are actually telling the truth about the food that they serve. So when they say that they're serving fresh fish for the day, is it actually fresh or not? So for an experienced cook like Gordon Ramsay, who's been in the industry for 25 to 30 years, it's very easy to go ahead and point out whether this particular ingredient has been frozen or whether it's been bought in fresh. But for people like us who are not that well versed in the culinary arts, it might be a little bit more difficult. So what blockchain can do is that when you get your food, you can go ahead and just through a click of a button find out where the ingredients came from, where were they preserved, and how long ago were they ordered. So all of this data will be available to you, and you can know exactly what you're putting into your body. So it has huge benefits for the F&B sector. Then the primary sector also gets a lot of benefits from here, because you can go ahead and start tracking all of the produce in farms, in fisheries, in cattle farms as well. And it also gives a lot of benefits for the mining industry, because all of the inherent requirement of going ahead and ensuring the flow of goods through individuals or entities goes away. You don't really have to trust one person to go there and figure out how much was produced and where it was transferred. Instead, you can have 3 or 4 people doing that, and you don't really have to trust those people, because at the end of the day, they need to be saying the same thing. They need to be singing the same song. So if there is someone out of tune, you can go ahead and see what the majority is saying, and you can trace back where the discrepancy happened. So this creates a system where you don't really have to rely on someone else. And something that we really want to touch upon is circular economy. Now, this is something that's garnering a lot of attention, but it's still in the very early phases. And we think that in the next 4 to 5 years, this is going to redefine sustainability. So, circular economy, in a very base definition, is maximizing the output of a particular operation. So, to give you an example, let's go back to the restaurants, where we say that, hey, look, the restaurants bring in fresh fish every single day, and not all of it might get used. So what do they do with the fresh fish? Because if they decide to keep it for the next day, it's no longer fresh. So instead of throwing it away, what are the alternative options that can be applied to basically maximize the utility of the leftover fish, or the leftover ingredient, or leftover materials, to bring it to a general perspective? So this kind of tracking will allow people to go ahead and see that, hey, look, this is available and I think I need that. So this will create a system of fulfilling demands that's automated and public, and it's going to be very, very efficient, because you can have a whole lot of people looking at it, you can have a whole lot of people bidding on it. And this kind of tracking will create a very, very sustainable effect for everyone around. And you can also look at all of the data that's coming in. So you can see that, okay, yeah, if this is being used here and if this is being used there, where is the maximum benefit coming out of? So this is something that's beneficial to institutions, because wastage can basically be directed towards the bottom line. So you don't really have to figure out how much cost it's going to take to basically dispose of the waste, but you can look at how much money you can make out of the waste or the excess material that you have. So that's something that is going to get a lot of attention as we move towards sustainability. And as your companies look to get more and more efficient, this data will become very, very important. Securing the data will become very, very important, and blockchain as a technology will become very, very important towards circular economy. Now, the supply chain management is huge. There are a huge number of players in this, and you can see some of the companies who have already started their operations. So you guys can go ahead and have a look. If you're interested in supply chain management, we implore you to go and look at what these companies are doing. And if you guys want to see an entire video on supply chain management, just feel free to comment down below and we'll get to that as well. Now, enough of the business, and we're going to move on to the second phase of the podcast, which is basically the news. So we look at all of the happenings and the latest trends that's coming out of the blockchain industry. And like we mentioned before, the theme today is how can you earn through blockchain technology. So we're going to talk about something that's taking the world by storm right now. And if anyone thought that someone could displace Chrome as a browser, they probably were considered crazy or mad by the general public. But these guys right here, Brave, now they went ahead and said that, hey, look, we can leverage blockchain technology to go ahead and take on the biggest supplier of information today, and that is Google and Chrome. So what they said was that, hey, look, they're going to team up with DuckDuckGo, and DuckDuckGo is another search engine that's privacy friendly, and they went ahead and created their own browser. Now, the USP of this browser is that it lets you earn for browsing and viewing ads, and basically lets you earn for doing all of the general browsing activity that you do on a regular basis. Now, a lot of you watching this are currently going ahead and using the internet, and you don't really get paid for it, because the person who is currently getting paid for it is Google through YouTube, and then they decide to go ahead and share the profits with the content creators. but you don't really get a say in it other than going ahead and consuming the content. So what Brave does is that it has removed YouTube as a person who says that, okay, yeah, you have to go through us. Instead, Brave directly pays you in its own native currency called basic attention token, and you can go ahead and just start donating or start using your basically it gives you an ability to monetize all of your browsing activity. So the more you browse, the more you'll earn in basic attention token. So that's pretty much how it works, and it's an ecosystem built for supporting the creators of the content. So all of the guys, all of the websites that you go to, it really depends upon how much time you're spending with them, and it really depends upon how much time you are spending on a whole as to how much of your browsing activity will go towards that particular website or that particular publisher. So this is something that's a little bit difficult to grasp, but we're going to take it a bit by bit. I'm going to break it down for you. So how it works is that when you go ahead and you sign up as a user for the basic attention token, you can generally go ahead and start monetizing your browsing activity or just by viewing ads. The second option is that you can become a publisher, and now this is open to everyone. So you can go ahead and just create your own website. You can go ahead and create your own YouTube channel, get an Uphold account, which if you go into the Brave browser, they tell you all about it. So you just go onto their website and they'll be happy to direct you. But you go ahead, get Uphold account, and you can basically start receiving basic attention tokens from not only your browsing activity, but from everyone else who's coming onto your particular channel. So that's something that's very, very creative. It's open to contributors, and it does not really matter what your size is. Like today, you need to be a large contributor to start getting any kind of monetary benefit from all of the content that you're creating, especially on sites like YouTube. But what basic attention token says is that it really depends upon how much people want your content. So even if you have just 100 people who are continuously consuming your content, you can actually start monetizing that. So that's something that's very rare. It's decentralized, and dare I say it, it's borderline socialism. But in any way, but let's just go ahead and look at what else can be done over here. So you can't really withdraw the basic attention token that you get as a particular user, because this you can just spend in terms of giving tips, or you can give donations. I don't really have to go to a third party service like Patreon to go ahead and do this. You can do this automatically on your own, and you can even set up automated tips. So this is something that basically just depends upon your usage. So the more you consume, the more it automatically donates to that particular publisher or that particular website. Again, if you are a publisher, at the end of the day, you can go ahead and get this money. And as since I said, anyone can become a publisher. As long as you have an Uphold account, you will get that basic attention token into your wallet. You can then take that to an exchange, and you can just convert that into any other cryptocurrency or USD or any other fiat currency that you guys want. And that's how you basically convert this data into basic or tangible money. So this is something that's great, and the downsides of this is that I've personally used Brave for a bit, and I loved the browser. The only issue was that I was having a little bit of difficulty with CAPTCHA, so it wasn't really taking all of my images into account. Maybe it thought I was a robot, so I'm not really sure. And it doesn't also support all of the extensions that Chrome has, and now I'm a heavy user of extensions on Chrome. So as long as that ecosystem is not built into Brave, I wouldn't move into it. But for general browsing activity, and if you really care about your data and you don't want to give it to Google, I think that this is the best option to take. And I think generally people should start flocking towards this very soon. And I certain that with the amount of money that content creators can make, it won't be very difficult in the future for Brave to go ahead and say that, hey, look, if you're building extensions for us, you can start earning money. And I wouldn't mind donating for some of the extensions that I use, because they're just simply awesome and make life so much easier. Feedbands. Now, Feedband is a music or Spotify competitor that helps you stream music on their platform. It's a paid service, so you pay about $10 or 9.99 USD per month, and it has very limited content, because this is a new website that's come up, or a new service that's come up. So you're not going to have all of the greatest creators, or the general people that you listen to, or any of the mainstream artists. So this is something that's on its initial stage, And what's really good about this is that it pays you to basically stream its music. So as long as you're a paid user on the website or on their platform, you can get 5 cents per stream or of per song that you listen to, and you're pretty much limited to about 300 songs a month. So that equals to about $15 a month, and 300 songs is not that easy to reach because 300 songs is basically 10 songs a day, and I hit that on a regular basis. I'm pretty sure most of you hit it even more, and even if you don't, it's not really a big deal because you can just put it on as ambient music or just reduce the volume and reach 300 within 2-3 days. So that's not something that's really difficult to achieve. So you will be actually making money. You will be making about $5 every single time you use this service. So that's something that's beneficial. But what's really, really good is that you get a lot of benefits for bringing on artists to the platform. So if you know someone who's an artist, you can go ahead and ask them to put on all of their content into the Feedbands platform, and for every stream that they generate from their content, you also get benefited. So that's something that's really, really crucial. So it will be a system where the users will be driving the content creators to come and join this. So they've practically made all of their customers into business developers, where they're going out and looking for artists, which is the most difficult thing to do for a music platform today. And you've seen a lot of, I think one of the biggest or the catalyst for this particular trend in this industry was Kanye West saying that all of his music will be available only on Tidal. So that was something that created exclusivity as a USP, and a lot of other content creators have tried to, a lot of other platforms have decided that they want to get on this as well, and it's been really beneficial. So if you can actually bring in this kind of a system into Feedbands, I think that, and they're already doing it by monetizing all of their listeners, this is going to be huge for content creators and for the industry in general. Then you can also go ahead and, as a user, vote on which particular album will be published. So they publish that into a record and they mail it to you. So all of these benefits are there, and you will be voting as to which one gets published. So that's something that's completely new, and it's completely in the power of the people who are using this. So I'm not really sure if they store all of the songs on blockchain technology, because if they do, then you can basically go ahead and track all of the downloads. You can look at where the usage is going, and this really helps you fight all of the piracy problems that's going on around this. But this could be a feature that they bring in at a later date, and if they do bring this feature in, then this would make this a completely decentralized production studio or a decentralized record company that's completely supported by the people and for the people. Some of the problems with this particular platform is that in their FAQ or on their website, they continuously mention the fact that your Bitcoin could grow to 5 times or 10 times. Now this is something that sounds like a pyramid scheme. I'm not really excited about that fact, and this tells us a lot about where the users are, or where the creators, the creators of this platform are, and it says a lot about them and what their plans are for cryptocurrency. So that's something that we need to be a little wary about. But other than that, what's really, really attractive and why I've bought this up is because they're giving Bitcoin and not a native currency. So as we spoke about Brave before, Brave have their own native currency called BAT, but these guys are giving you Bitcoin directly. So that's something that's really, really beneficial. And if you guys are looking to, say for example, start growing your net worth in Bitcoin, or start investing into Bitcoin, if that's your general goal, then you can start diversifying by pretty much going ahead and signing up for this service. You just need to put in your Bitcoin wallet address and you're good to go, and you can pay through a credit card. So it's pretty much open to almost every country. But you need to be wary that you're not going to see Bitcoin rise 5 times, but you can still see your net worth being diversified into Bitcoin as it grows in general. So that pretty much covers it for our podcast today. And we hope that you guys liked the new format, and if you have any suggestions, if you want to bring in something new, then you can go ahead and just let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys next week. So take care. Bye.